All right. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Excellent.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Wow, this brings back memories of lecturing during the pandemic. Right. So today, the plan is just to sort of provide you all with an overview of the course. And the course is Introduction to Philosophy of Mind. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's the second time I've taught this course, and although we are dealing with a textbook that's a bit more on the technical side, my job is to make it accessible for all of you. And by the way, if you haven't had a class with me before, my name is Dr. Josh Redstone. Um, I'm a term instructor at Carleton University. I've been doing that, well, almost for a year now. And before that, I was a contract instructor. I did my PhD in cognitive science at Carleton University and my master's degree in philosophy at Carleton University. And both of those focused, I would say, quite heavily on the mind and cognition side of things. So this course meshes with my interests, and I have a lot of fun teaching it. And I hope that you have a lot of fun as we learn about the mind together. So I thought what we would do is simply go over the course outline. I don't think it's a very good idea to do a full lecture on the first day because no one is ever fully present for that. So let's see. I'm going to share my screen and we'll begin going over our course outline. Now, I imagine nobody has any problems navigating Brightspace. Otherwise, well, you wouldn't be here. So I'm going to assume that you all know how to get on Brightspace and find the links to our lectures, PowerPoints. There's no PowerPoints for today's lecture, but there will be for Wednesday's lecture. But everything is on Brightspace, of course. And of course, if you're here, you also know that classes run on Mondays and Wednesdays from 2:35 to 5:25. Not today, but usually they'll run about 3 hours. I'll leave it up to you once we start getting into the full lectures, whether you would like to take pause for a break of 10 or 15 minutes in the middle of lecture, or whether you just want to go straight through and end lectures a little earlier. Of course, the lectures are online. They are synchronous. It is better if you can join the live lectures. If you're not able to do that, though, these lectures are recorded and then they're posted to my YouTube channel for you to view later. Yeah, instructor information. Well, you already know who I am. If you need to get a hold of me, this is my email. Although we do have a class Discord server, which I'll talk more about in a moment, um, official communications do need to go through this email. So, um, certainly if you have like just minor questions or if you want to talk with me or amongst yourselves about something kind of related to philosophy, use the Discord server. That's great. It's a great way for you to talk amongst yourselves and form study groups and that kind of thing. But anything official has to go through the Carleton email account. So just remember that. We do have a teaching assistant for this class, Karanveer Singh, and Karanveer will be doing a good bit of the marking for this course. So when the time comes, if you need to get a hold of him, his contact information is also here. As far as what we'll be doing, well, think of this as a sort of survey course. We're going to be looking at, as I've written here, major philosophical issues concerning human cognition. We'll be focusing on things like the mind-body relationship, how we know about other minds, um, the relation of physical events to mental events, a little bit about personhood, personal identity, although admittedly not as much as I would like. Mental illness, I'll be honest, I should probably take that out. I don't think we'll be covering very much about that, but we will talk about consciousness, intentionality, mental realism, action, freedom of the will, lots of classic stuff. And as mentioned, although this is delivered online synchronously, and it is best if you are able to join synchronously, if you can't, you can watch the lectures later. You can also review the lectures, even if you've been here, during the live lecture, you can go and review stuff before tests or whatever, right? So that's a nice positive sort of thing that comes out of uploading the recorded lectures as well. Our textbook is Philosophy of Mind, 3rd edition by Jaegwon Kim. So you can buy a physical copy of this from the campus bookstore if you like. You can also find it at other retailers. Although if possible, it's always better to order it through like a sort of mom and pop bookstore rather than, a big retailer like Amazon or Chapters or something. Of course, you can also access this text via Carleton University's library. I may make some supplementary learning materials available as we proceed, but if I do, they will be made available well in advance of when they'll be discussed in lecture, and they'll be posted on Brightspace. So those will be easy to access. If you want to access the textbook via the library, I will show you how to do that right now. So let's get this out of the way and go here. So you want to log in to the Carleton University Library. I'm going to use the library proxy because I'm not on campus right now. So let's log in. And we'll just wait a few seconds. All right. Now you can simply search for the title of the book. And let's search for the author's name too. Here we go. Philosophy of Mind, Jaegwon Kim. All right. And here it is. It's the very first one, and it's available online. So just click that link and click this link, and you will have access to the textbook once it loads, of course. So you can read online, you can download the book, you can download chapters. Here you can see the table of contents and all of the content. I'll just open this up because we'll be looking at it later on when we look at our lecture schedule. But as you can see, quite easy to access that textbook through the library. It is nice if you buy your own copy. I have a digital copy of my own, although I think I'm going to find myself a paper copy in short order, because there's nothing like holding, there's nothing like reading a book, a real book. I like it. It's better than staring at a screen. But the advantage of this is that you can access the book for free. So it's up to you. Although I do encourage you to get a copy of this book if you are serious about philosophy of mind. So we'll return to this table of contents shortly. The course website, of course, is Brightspace, which, again, if you're here, you know how to access it. You'll find everything that you need to find on Brightspace. You will find this very course outline that we're reviewing. You'll find our lecture schedule. You will find my PowerPoint slides. You will not find the main readings, right? You have to go and read those yourselves. So I'm not posting the book chapters. But if I do make supplementary materials available, they will be posted on Brightspace, as I mentioned before. In terms of evaluation, I've decided to sort of do things in a bit of a how we could say piecemeal fashion for this course because it's so condensed, right? So you're going to have a series of weekly quizzes that you can see here. I'll say more about these in a moment. But each quiz is worth 10% of your grade. They don't take place every week, but almost every week, and they cover material from the previous week. So these quizzes are a way for you to sort of stay sharp on the material and earn some marks. There will also be an essay topic proposal worth 15% and a final essay, which works as a take-home examination worth 35%. I'll say more again about all of these momentarily. This is our schedule. So today we're doing the course overview. No big deal. On Wednesday, we'll be introducing ourselves to the topic of philosophy of mind. And we'll do that by looking at chapter 1 of Kim's book. So you can see from the subheadings here the kinds of things that we'll be talking about. We'll be talking about what exactly this field of philosophy of mind is. Essentially, it's asking fundamental questions about the nature of the mental. about thinking, about perceiving, about action and free will, about consciousness, decision making, all kinds of stuff. Anything related to the mind that we can ask fundamental questions about, that's philosophy of mind. Kim takes a very technical, very metaphysical and epistemological approach in his book. So when we're talking metaphysics, we're talking theories of reality. We're not talking about metaphysics in the way that you know, the metaphysics section of the bookstore, you know, the stuff you find there, all that weird new agey flim flam stuff. We're not doing that. No, we're talking about the study of reality, and the mind is part of reality. So we're asking fundamental questions about minds. And epistemology, of course, is a theory of knowledge. So we'll also be talking mostly metaphysically, but also epistemologically as we proceed. As you can see here, metaphysical preliminaries and mind-body supervenience, materialism and physicalism. This is all quite metaphysical stuff, right? So that's where we're going to begin. Week 2, we're going to kick off the week with substance dualism. So you'll want to read chapter 2, Mind as Immaterial Substance. Here we will talk about the substance dualism of René Descartes and why it doesn't really work. So if you've taken an introductory philosophy course, you've certainly learned about René Descartes and his theory of substance dualism, where the human being is made of two different kinds of finite substances, physical substance, res extensa, you know, matter, stuff that takes up space and has mass and so forth. And then thinking substance, which is exactly what it sounds like, a substance which thinks. Descartes thought that the body was made of res extensa, of extended substance, and the mind or soul was thinking substance. This is a very intuitive way of understanding not just the mind, but the whole human being. Many of us, you know, in the words of somebody like Susan Blackmore, are natural born dualists. Our intuitions seem to tend toward dualism of the mind and body. And indeed, dualism goes back in the history of philosophy far before Descartes. I mean, Plato was also a dualist. But there are some pretty significant problems with dualism. So we'll start week 2 by talking about dualism and identifying those problems before we finally move on to property dualism, which is not nearly as problematic as substance dualism, as we'll see. So that'll be the first lecture for week 2. Then we'll move on for the second lecture of week 2 to discuss behaviorism. We will discuss two kinds of behaviorism. We will discuss logical behaviorism, which is the sort of philosophical version of the behaviorist theory, and psychological behaviorism, which is probably the variety of behaviorism that you're familiar with. Here we're talking about, you know, classical conditioning, operant conditioning, Pavlov's dogs, Watson and Skinner, figures like that. What all of these have in common is the idea that the mind is kind of like a black box. And there's no point in theorizing about the mental, because mental states are actually unobservable states. And if we can't observe anything in science, well, we can't do science with it. So that's the challenge to studying the mental posed by varieties of behaviorism. Of course, we will talk about why neither of those really work, right? You can't really explain behavior without reference to the mental. Although this is kind of outside of the field of inquiry that we're concerned with, one of the things that led to the cognitive revolution in the which I guess kicked off properly in the 50s and 60s, but started earlier with the decline of behaviorism, is the idea that, you know, we need mental states. We have to posit mental states. We have to infer mental states to make sense of a lot of different kinds of behavior. So that'll be that for behaviorism. Week 3, we're going to take a break from our regularly scheduled lectures, and I'm going to talk to you about writing a good essay proposal and a good research essay. The reason I'm doing this week is because we only have one lecture that week because of, I believe it's Victoria Day. So we'll spend that lecture on discussing how to write a really good essay and a really good proposal. And then we'll spend whatever time we have left collectively brainstorming possible essay topics. So you do not want to miss that. When we get back to our regularly scheduled lectures, we will look at identity theory for the first lecture of week 4 and machine functionalism for the second lecture of week 4. So if we hop back to the table of contents, identity theory, there are variations on this theory, but what they all do is equate mental states to physical states, namely brain states. So what does it mean to be in pain, to have the mental state, of experiencing pain, crying ouch and feeling, the pangs of, stubbing your toe or something? Well, it just means that you've got to have the right kind of brain state. You've got to have your C fibers firing or something, right? There are, again, different versions of this: type identity theory, token identity theory. We'll learn more about what these terms mean when we get to this chapter. But there are some problems with identity theory, problems which we may be able to ameliorate with our next topic, machine functionalism. Machine functionalism makes sense of the mind by analogizing it to, well, not just analogizing it to a computer, outright stating the mind is a computer. And what matters is not so much physical realization, whether your brain, whether your mind is, realized by a brain, or whether a mind could be realized by a computer. This isn't a big problem for functionalism like it is for identity theorists who say that mental states are brain states. No, if you're a functionalist, what matters is the functional organization of the system you're talking about. So whether your mind is realized by a brain or by a computer or by something else entirely doesn't matter. What matters is how it functions as an information processing system. Then in week 6, we'll talk about causal theoretical functionalism and mental causation. So causal theoretical functionalism is a way of sort of going beyond machine functionalism, kind of advancing it a little further than Putnam's original formulation of functionalism. I won't say too much about it now. To be honest, this is going to be, prepare yourselves, this is the most difficult chapter in this textbook. If we can get through this chapter, we'll be good. But just a heads up, it is the most difficult chapter. I won't say too much more about causal theoretical functionalism now. Mental causation is a very interesting chapter because we have occasion to talk about agency, free will, and epiphenomenalism. Epiphenomenalism is the idea that while physical events can cause mental events cannot cause physical events. So you can see, I think, how this will lead us into many interesting questions concerning agency and free will. All right, then for, oh, sorry, that was week 5. Week 6, mental content and consciousness. Where do mental states get their content from? Mental states have content. It's a property of mental states that we call intentionality. They have content. In other words, they are always about something. But how does that come to happen? That's what we'll be exploring in chapter 8. And in chapter 9, we will begin discussion of subjective consciousness. What philosophers usually mean by consciousness is the subjective first-person experience of ourselves and the world. and the what it's likeness of that experience. So we'll be talking about lots of fun things there. Uh, Thomas Nagel is mentioned here. What is it like to be a bat? I don't know. We can never know. Why? The problem of subjectivity. This is why consciousness is such a mystery, because all of our methods of inquiry, like philosophy and the various cognitive sciences, like neuroscience and psychology, aim at being objective. But consciousness is subjective. How can we give an objective account of something that is so radically subjective? We'll see. We'll talk about phenomenal consciousness. That's the what it's like aspect of consciousness. And access consciousness. This is a distinction made by Ned Block. This is all about consciousness that is more experiential versus consciousness that's used in planning, reasoning, and so forth. Higher order perception and higher order thought theories. These are very straightforward. These ideas or these theories state that what makes something conscious is having a higher order perception or thought about it. So I'm conscious of this coffee cup if I not only perceive the coffee cup, but I perceive that I perceive the coffee cup. That's the idea. We'll spend our very last lecture for week 7 on the final chapter, Consciousness and the Mind-Body Problem. So we'll be returning back to something that we will be introduced to when we look at chapter 2, when we discuss Descartes' substance dualism, the mind-body interaction problem. The problem is roughly as follows. The mind is an immaterial substance and the body is a material substance. How on earth do they interact with one another? Descartes never satisfactorily explained how, and that's one of the main problems with dualism. But even if we reject dualism, we still have a mind-body problem. How are physical and mental events related, for example? David Chalmers calls this the hard problem of consciousness. And that is what I was gesturing at earlier. How do we objectively explain something that's radically subjective, like consciousness? So this will be fun. This will be a fun way to end the course. And it looks like we'll be talking about some other interesting things too, like neuroscience. Mary, the color scientist from Frank Jackson's famous argument about Mary, who lives in the black and white room and one day is let out and experiences color for the first time. That'll be a lot of fun. So that's the table of contents. Any questions so far about any of that? If no, you can just either remain silent or say no in the chat if you like. Or you know what, better yet, if you have a question, just at any point raise your virtual hand. You have these little virtual hand things on your chat. Just just do that. Okay. So as I said, lectures primarily all right. Oh, awesome. Great. So lectures 2:35 p.m. to 5:25. The Zoom meetings will start at 2:30, but we don't really get rolling until 2:35 because that is the time that classes are scheduled. So, and as I said, as we proceed, we'll make the decision as a group whether we want to go for 3 hours with a break in the middle or just go until we're finished and end a little bit earlier. So I'll leave that to you. It's very important to make sure that Zoom is up to date and that you're logged in with your My Carleton credentials, or you won't be able to access the lecture links. And of course, as mentioned, if you can't be here for the live lectures, you can catch uploads of my lectures on YouTube. Now, initially, I usually keep the videos unlisted. But if you want, you should anonymize your names here on the screen, because even when videos are unlisted, sometimes people find them via links, and I don't anticipate any privacy concerns here. It's not like anyone's going to be sharing banking information or their social insurance numbers or something during lectures. But if you want, you can change your name make sure it's tasteful and appropriate, or just go with your first name, but change it so that it's anonymized if you want to, just in case you have any privacy concerns. I will be holding office hours by appointment this term. So if you have any requests for office hours, remember, Carlton email, not the Discord server, although we can meet on the Discord server or via Zoom. Send it to me, send your request to meet via your email, and we'll schedule a meeting and we'll meet virtually. And the same will go with Karanvir, right? Our teaching assistant. If you ever need to meet with him to discuss anything, then you'll want to get in touch with him via email and set up a virtual meeting. All right, the Discord server, as I said, you don't have to join. It's completely optional, but it is a cool place to kind of hang out. You can chat amongst yourselves about assignments, learning materials. It's a great way to connect with students when essay season rolls around. So when you're writing your essay, it might be helpful to have a second pair of eyes proofread it for you. Now, I don't do this for students. I'm going to say that now. Sometimes I get requests to do so. I don't do it because if I do it for one, I have to do it for everybody. So it's not really fair. And also, this is kind of the point of the proposals. You get my feedback on your plan for your essay with your essay proposal. But if you want to have a friend or a fellow student look over your essay and you want to look over theirs, you can kind of swap essays and help each other proofread them by connecting over the Discord server. So that's a good way to do that. So all you have to do is download the app, install it, and click this link, and it will take you to my Discord server. Once there, you'll want to navigate to the thread for this class, or I don't know, a thread, a tab, whatever it's called. There's one specifically for this course, and you can go there. Before you are able to post anything, you will need to read over the rules for the server. And those basically concern your online conduct. Basically, in a nutshell, everyone be civil online. No flame wars, no bullying, no harassment. Let's all treat each other the way we would like to be treated. Okay. Although I will say I've never had a problem with any of this. So I'm just saying this because, but I've never had a problem with it. So I trust that all of you will be civil. As mentioned, starting in week 2, you're going to complete these weekly non-cumulative quizzes. So quiz 1 will be about everything from the week before. Quiz 2 will be everything from the week before that, but it won't cover anything that quiz 1 covered. They only cover the stuff we covered the week previous to the quiz. So there's a total of 5 of those. They'll cover important concepts, important ideas, key figures, important terms. I'm not really a names and dates person. Well, names, yes. I'm a names and ideas person. So I won't ask you about names and dates, but I will ask you about theories, ideas, terminology, and so forth. The quizzes tend to, as I put them together, tend to have a mix of true, false, multiple choice questions and short written answer questions. I'm figuring for each of these quizzes, probably 10 multiple choice and true false questions per quiz, and 2 short written answer questions. Once the quiz opens, you have 5 days to complete it. So you can start whenever you want. But once you decide to begin, then there is a time limit. So say you feel like writing your quiz on Tuesday. Great, get up, start your quiz. Once you start, 60-minute time limit. Now, this is very important. The quizzes are open book. Here's what that means. You can refer to your readings. You can refer to my slides. You can refer to your notes. That's all fine. You may not copy and paste directly from notes, readings, or PowerPoints. Answers must be in your own words. And because there is a time limit, I highly recommend studying before you begin. Otherwise, you might lose a lot of time, flipping through your materials trying to answer the questions. So study beforehand. And yeah, if you get stuck, if you forget a term, you can look it up in your notes. That's fine. but you can't copy paste notes. You can't copy paste directly from the slides or from the textbook. So do study beforehand, even though the quiz is open book. Here's what open book does not mean. Does not mean copy and pasting. It does not mean using Google or other search engines. Do not do this. Why? Honestly, you're probably going to get it wrong. Google is not really the best when it comes to finding highly technical information in the form that you'll want to refer to for a quiz like this. And do not, absolutely do not, under any circumstances, use ChatGPT or any other generative AI. That is expressly forbidden in my class. A lot of people I've been finding in other classes use ChatGPT almost like they use Google. This is a very bad idea. Not only is it an academic integrity violation, ChatGPT is actually not that good at producing answers for this kind of thing. Chances are you're going to get the question wrong, even if I don't identify it as ChatGPT. And I will identify it as ChatGPT. How? Because ChatGPT also takes my quizzes. So I know what kind of answers to look for. And also, my research specialty is human-machine interaction. I know very well how machines produce the output they produce, how humans respond to it, how they learn from it. You could say that I'm interested in the human side of human-machine interaction. So this is very, very, very well within my wheelhouse. So, and you know what? I always give this warning and I always get people cheating anyway. But just please don't do it. It's not worth it. It's not worth it because I have to report academic integrity violations. So that is what open book does and does not mean. And just to reiterate, there is to be no generative AI used in this class at all. I cannot emphasize that strongly enough. So when it comes to your term paper topic proposal, again, I'm going to give you a lecture on how to do this, but you're going to basically produce a proposal that is 500 to 750 words in length, and you're going to identify a topic for your paper, a thesis statement for your paper, or a research question, as well as a tentative answer to that question. That also works as a thesis statement. And then what I like to call a plan of attack. What kind of paper will you write? Will it be a positive argument, a negative argument, an adjudicative argument? What sources will you use? What structure do you think that your paper will take? Those kinds of things, right? So Angelica, there'll be a mix. We'll have 10 or so multiple choice and true false questions, and then probably 2 short answer questions. And each quiz will be like that. So the proposal is going to be due on May 31st. It's worth 15% of your final grade. It's due at 11:59 p.m. on May 31st. You will submit on Brightspace. Please submit in doc format, like document, like Microsoft Word. All of you have access to Microsoft Word, by the way. You can download Microsoft Office 360 for Mac or PC. Log in with your Carleton credentials and you have free Microsoft Office. So it's great. If you can't submit in document format, submit in PDF. I cannot open other file formats. So, and I'm not going to chase you down for like another file format, right? If you submit in like a Pages file or something and I can't open that, I'm not going to chase after you because I have like a lot of students in this class. I don't have time to chase people down. So definitely remember to submit in doc or PDF. No. As I was saying earlier, drafts do not get reviewed by me. That is what the proposal is for. What you can do is ask your colleagues if you want to proofread each other's work, right? Like if you have, say to your friend, Johnny Student, hey, Johnny Student, will you proofread my paper? I'll proofread yours, and you swap papers and you proofread and add some suggestions. That's fine. But I don't do that because I would have to do it for everyone, and that's not really reasonable. Um, and also, that's what the proposal's for. The proposal is where you get my advice and Karanvir's advice for how to develop the paper. The final paper should be somewhere between 2,000 and 2,500 words, and it's due at 11:59 p.m. on June 27th, which is the final day of the exam period for the early summer session. We do that because the paper works as a take-home examination. So it's worth a good chunk of your grade, right? Again, I'm going to lecture on how to write a paper, how to write a proposal, how to conduct research, how to avoid common writing and argumentation pitfalls, and then we'll have a brainstorming session. We'll come up with possible essay topics. And by the way, I like to see really creative, imaginative essay topics. I've had people write about can you upload your brain to a computer? I've had people write about whether robots could be conscious. I've had people write about various movies that deal with the mental, like something like Memento or Inception. I've had people write about those films. So I do like to see creative stuff like that. So if you have a really interesting idea based on, piece of media that you like, that's great. If you want to keep it real philosophical, but maybe go a little bit outside of the scope of the class, bring in a little neuroscience, a little cognitive science, maybe a little ancient philosophy, that's good too. I love to see that stuff. I think that creativity is actually a really important skill to develop, and that's not emphasized enough in university studies. In addition to, your critical thinking skills and your writing skills, I also want you to beef up your creativity while you're here. So I love to see creative topics. So, um, speaking of assignments, though, I do have this deferral policy. If you're um, really, actually, this should be changed. Illness or bereavement, or exceptional circumstances, um, like some kind of personal emergency. Maybe, maybe your your plumbing explodes or your house catches on fire. Hopefully not, but you know, that's going to affect your ability to get the assignment done. Maybe your computer breaks, right? Maybe maybe you lose not a person but a pet, hopefully not. Um, that's okay. Let me know. Just all I ask is that you keep open lines of communication with me. I tend to be very accommodating with this kind of thing. The only time I really dock marks for missing a deadline is if no one has reached out to me, right? So if you're like, really sick and you're like, hey, I need an extra week on this paper. I've got the flu or something. No problem. Just let me know and fill out your self-report form or whatever it is you need to do. Um, this also doesn't just, by the way, this includes not just physical health, but mental health. Maybe you're burned out. Maybe you're depressed. Maybe you're having like an anxious episode of some kind. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Let me know what's happening and I'll work with you. If you don't let me know, however, I will generally deduct marks from your assignments. Email policy. Again, if you need to contact me, you should go through official channels. I'll try to answer within 24 hours, but I may not answer right away if it's after 5 p.m. or on a weekend. I probably will, but I'm not guaranteed to. Please don't email me with questions I've already answered in lecture or course outlines or assignment descriptions. Ask me questions, if you got to let me know that you're ill or something and you need an extension, or if you have a question about the material that you thought of after lecture and you want some clarification, yeah, definitely reach out to me. Otherwise, if you're like, hey, when's the assignment due? Well, that's all here. Don't don't email me with those questions because your email probably won't get answered. Online class policies. As I mentioned before, well, we're all here online together, or if you're on the Discord server, please be civil with one another. Again, I've never had a problem with this. I always have a great bunch of students, and everybody is very awesome to each other, and I love that. Um, but if there are violations of the human rights policy or the student rights and responsibilities policy, including but not limited to any kind of abuse, harassment, bullying, trolling, or disruptive behavior, this can result in disciplinary action. If it takes place on the Discord server, I will simply remove you from the server. If it takes place in class, you may be removed from class. And depending on the severity of the defense, other disciplinary action may need to follow. So just treat everybody nicely the way you want to be treated. I have a plagiarism policy. So very important to avoid plagiarism. And I'll talk about this more during the essay topic / research essay lecture. But you really need to read through the plagiarism guidelines and make sure that you are avoiding things that count as plagiarism. So if you forget to close a quote or don't cite something properly, I generally understand that that's just incorrect citation, not plagiarism. But if you submit someone else's essay as your own, if you use large parts of another work without giving proper credit, if you use ChatGPT, that's definitely plagiarism. And that will have to be followed up with an academic misconduct report. So I can't deal with it on my own, right? I have to make a report. The chair of the department gets involved, the dean gets involved. It's a whole thing. So do not plagiarize. Please familiarize yourself with the plagiarism policy, which is linked on the final page of this document. And once again, do not use ChatGPT or any other generative AI tools. These are not allowed in this course. Oh, that brings me to my next point. Yeah, just don't do it. By the way, I'm putting this here in the course outline because it's very important. I, the instructor, do reserve the right to ask you to submit evidence of your work. I might ask you to submit notes, drafts, video recordings, photocopies, screenshots, first cited page of each reference source, anything relevant to evaluating your assignment, I can and will ask for. In fact, I'm going to require that you submit these things with your final paper. And if there is nothing there, say I get an essay that's perfectly written with no sources or with sources that don't exist and no materials that showed me how you produced that paper, that will be treated as a case of academic misconduct. And I'm sorry that I have to seem like such a hard ass when it comes to this stuff, but ChatGPT has really changed the game. Yeah, the landscape in university paper writing is very different now. So this is how I'm dealing with that. So just please, 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 for your own good, do not use generative AI in this course. It will not work out well because, academic misconduct, it goes on your transcript. You get anything from a 0 on the assignment to failing the course. This is all outlined in the policies on the final page, but just please, please, please don't do it. I don't believe any of you will, but just in case you're thinking about it, know that it is not worth it. All right. Other important things are on the following page. So there's the plagiarism policy, policy for deferrals for exams and term work, important dates for the summer term, and different links to different departments that you might want to get a hold of at some point in case you need to. So that is the course outline. That is what we'll be doing this term for philosophy of mind. I do not have anything else to tell you today. However, if you have questions for me, now is a good time. So does anyone have any questions about the course or about anything I've said today?
Yeah, I have a quick question.
Okay. Oh, hi, Taylor.
Um, hey, how are you?
Good, good.
Okay, so I'm just looking at the sill here, and I noticed that quiz number 4 is due on June 14th, which is the Friday, which is like normal.
Hmm.
All of them seem to be, except for quiz 5, which is due on the Tuesday, on June
Yes,
18th. Is that because that's like the last day of the course or something?
it is. And it will be a very light quiz. It will not be as um it will be like half a quiz, really.
Oh, I'd love to see it. Thanks so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, so that's no problem. Yeah, I kept that in mind. I wanted to have the quiz due later than that, but that is the last day, so that quiz will be a little bit easier than the others. But also, right, keep in mind that they are open book quizzes, so I think everybody will do pretty well with the quizzes. All right. Nirmith asks, is it possible to go into depth the video recordings of sources? Um, I'm not quite sure what you mean. Do you mean like can you use like video recordings as sources? Like for example, if you have a YouTube video and you want to cite that, I would say that that's
Sorry,
okay. Oh,
sorry about that. I'm not so sure if you can hear me properly because I'm overseas. So in the syllabus, you mentioned that you reserve the right to ask for the video recordings of the sources. So it's
yeah.
about that particular part. Just a little bit of clarification would be appreciated.
Oh, yeah. Well, like I'm probably not going to ask for video recordings, but maybe screenshots or earlier drafts. It's just I put that in there in the interest of being comprehensive. Um,
All right, fair enough. So,
yeah.
like, even a log history of my entire progress throughout the entire report would be sufficient, I'm assuming?
Well, just like if you send me drafts of the paper, like a first draft, a middle draft, just something to show me that the work is produced
Mhm.
by you, just in case I
Right,
ask
right,
for it. Yeah.
right. Makes sense.
Um,
Thanks.
yeah, no problem. Okay, Savina says, are the quizzes more textbook based or a mix of all material? Well, anything in the textbook or that I say in lecture is fair game. Yeah. Uh, Noah says, how long do you expect our short answer responses? Well, the precise length is usually about a paragraph or two. And a decent paragraph, not like a 3 sentence paragraph, a 5 sentence paragraph at least. Um, Kim says, the syllabus, we have 5 days to complete the quiz. The due dates are when the quizzes will be due. So the quiz will open and then so the quizzes will open Monday and then be due on Friday. So those dates are the due dates. Yeah. Okay, Angelica, go ahead.
I was just wondering about the proof of essay writing because
Okay.
my writing style is that I don't really have notes or things. I just go straight onto the page and start writing. I don't have drafts or anything. So in that kind of situation, would I have to like actively create proof to show,
You
or
can you can take a screenshot, like just say you're writing on your paper, just take like a screenshot every hour. And that's
okay,
fine.
okay, fantastic, thank you.
Yeah, just because I don't want anyone to have to like change their style. I know that people do have different approaches to things like writing essays. So I don't want to cramp anyone's style. So if you save multiple drafts, great. If you just want to take screenshots of one draft, fine. Either one works for me. Go ahead, Taylor.
Yeah, so I just have a question about the structure of the lectures. So is this going to be a lot like last year where you spend like the majority of the 2, 3 hours like lecturing? Or is it going to be kind of like different from that? Like are you going to kind of like foster like a conversation going on or like yeah, I was just curious if you could expand on what to expect in lecture.
Well, since this is a really technical textbook, I want to try and be as comprehensive, but at the same time not go on and on and on, because I think it would help the students grasp the material better if there were opportunities for discussion. So what I plan on doing is hitting the main points, the main ideas that I want everyone to absorb. And then, as we go, we will discuss these ideas. So it'll be kind of a mix of lecture and discussion if everything goes well. Excellent. No, there aren't going to be any practice quizzes. Again, like the quizzes are open book and they're not incredibly difficult. They're really about keeping you sharp on the material just as much as they are about evaluating you. So I don't see any needs for practice quizzes. Sorry, there's children screaming outside of my window. But it's open book. So my quizzes aren't super difficult. They're not super easy, but they're not like super difficult either. Angelica.
Sorry, I was also wondering that so the quizzes become available on Monday and they end on Friday, right? So
Yep.
would we, on Monday, would we have opportunities to maybe discuss the quiz a bit with you, or strictly no?
Yeah, I think that's fine. Like if you have any questions, I can't answer questions about I can tell you what will be on the quiz. Um
Mhm.
and we can do a little bit of review potentially. I think that would be okay, but I don't want to discuss them too much because
Of course.
yeah, they are meant to the whole idea, the way I design my quizzes is they're designed around this idea that you remember things better when you use them. So if you're taking notes and writing something down and then going back and reviewing those notes and actively recalling them, you'll remember them better when than if you didn't do that. And that's why the quizzes are open book. It's to help
Okay.
get everything to stick in your brain. And that's why I highly discourage copying and pasting, because that defeats the purpose of that exercise, right? But yes, if you have any kind of last minute questions before you start the quiz, absolutely, I'll answer them to the best of my ability.
Okay. And another thing, I was also wondering if we could email you, obviously, relevant questions, and even if it's just things that we have from other courses that we think that that your insight might be really helpful on, is that something that we could do as well?
Certainly. Yeah, I try to keep an open door policy. So I encourage people to reach out to me if they have any questions like that. So yeah, absolutely. I'd say that's fine. All
Thank
right.
you.
Taylor asks, how many questions should we? Okay, so it's going to be around 10 multiple choice true false, and then 2 short written answer questions. Except for the last quiz, which will be like a half of a quiz. And maybe I'll throw a bonus question in there on the last quiz too. Sabina asks if the quizzes will be textbook based or all material. All materials. So just to reiterate, anything in the textbook or anything that's raised in lecture is fair game for the quiz. All right. Any other questions? I'm glad you can't hear the screaming children because they're very loud where I am. Kale asks, how shortly after? Well, as I indicate in the course outline, no later than 48 hours. Usually I start uploading right after lecture. Sometimes I'm not able to. And I don't have the best internet connection. So, it takes a little while to upload. Then the video has to process on the YouTube servers, and then it goes live. But as soon as it does, you'll be able to access it. Sometimes I do post I post the link to the YouTube video before it's finished processing. So if you ever click on that link and the video is not ready, just wait an hour or two and try again, because it does take a while to process the video. But yeah, I do try to do it as fast as possible. Oh, thanks, Taylor. Yeah, I had fun. I had fun with that. I always have fun with philosophy of the paranormal. This is going to be Oh, well, I don't think it's going to be drier, but some people might. Um, but it is still going to be a very interesting class. We're going to talk about lots of cool stuff related to the mind and thinking about the mind. You know, again, the reason why I say that philosophy of mind is really all about asking fundamental questions about the mental is because that's what philosophy is all about. Philosophy means love of wisdom, right? From philia, which is like a familial, friendly love, and Sophia, wisdom. So love of wisdom. And how I and many other thinkers understand that is um, the pursuit of answers to fundamental questions about anything and everything. And in this case, what we're asking fundamental questions about is the mind. Thinking, perceiving, acting, consciousness, all of that wonderful stuff. I mean, think about it. The scientific consensus nowadays is that the mind is what the brain does. And the brain, the human brain, is one of the most complicated objects in the known universe. You know, I don't want to get all neuroscientific on you, but the human brain has at least 86 billion neurons and trillions of connections that we call synapses. And this is where the mind arises from. So the mind is complex too. And consciousness, in the words of we recently lost Professor Dennett, but in the words of Dan Dennett, consciousness is just about the last surviving mystery. That's why we're going to end the class with it. Consciousness, in addition to thinking, perceiving, acting, uh, fascinating, complicated, mysterious, and we're going to try and get a grip on some of the questions related to all of this term. So I'm really excited about it. I'm glad that you're excited about it. Are there any other questions before we wrap up? It seems not. Oh, wait. I'm not sure if we'll be able to talk about Stoicism. But I wouldn't rule out the possibility of including some discussion of Stoicism for, you know, in a final paper, if you're curious about that. Yeah, I'm far too animated to be a Stoic, but yeah. But if that's a topic people are interested in, I mean, perhaps Stoicism and the mind, you know, maybe how the Stoics thought about emotions or judgment and the suspension thereof, that might be something that could be developed into an interesting research essay. What else? What else? Anything else? You know, if we wrap up and you think of a question afterwards, just go ahead and email me. I'll answer you as soon as possible. But I don't really have anything else to tell you for today. We've gone over the course outline. I've shown you how to access the textbook. Oh, one other thing on Brightspace that I will draw your attention to. If you go to the course table of content and go down to the very bottom, here, let me share my screen again. Go down to the very bottom. You'll find the helpful materials module. So it's right here. And I have links that you'll find important and helpful. Links and some documents. So the course outline is there. There's a template for your essay proposal. Please use the template. It will make your life easier. A link to my YouTube channel where I post the lectures. A link to the Discord server again. This is a link to Purdue University's online writing lab. So I've linked directly to the APA citation guide, which is the style that I recommend you use for your essay proposals and your final essays. And a link to some helpful rubrics that I don't really use, but that inspire my approach to marking papers. So take a look at those if you want to know what an A+ paper looks like versus a B, a C, or a D paper. So those are the helpful materials module, and I'll just draw your attention to this There's no PowerPoint slides for today, but when there are PowerPoint slides, you'll find them linked below the lecture links. And here is where I'll post links to the recorded lectures. I'll post, the link to today's recording right below here in week 1. And for Wednesday's lecture, it'll be right below here. So that's really all I can think of. I think you should know everything you need to know going into this course. So let's wrap it up for today. And remember that if you have any other questions or concerns, you are welcome to reach out to me via email, and I will answer your questions as soon as possible. That's it for now. I'm really excited to get into this course. Don't be intimidated by the textbook. It is dry and technical, but it's good, and I will make it more accessible for you. So glad to see you all here in my class. I'm really enjoying embarking on this journey with all of you, and I will see you all on Wednesday. All right, awesome. Okay, take care, everyone, and bye for now.